Even the smallest soldier can change the game. This is where he starts his journey.
The billionaire laughed so hard he had to wipe his eyes. "You're 7, Malcolm Greer said into the microphone, his voice booming across the Crestmorn Plaza ballroom. The crowd of 300 guests, investors, politicians, socialites, laughed with him. "I'll give you $100 million, Malcolm continued, pausing for effect, if you solve this position and beat me at chess." The boy standing barefoot beside the mahogany table didn't answer. He was too thin. His jacket hung 2 sizes too large, sleeves swallowing his hands. His jeans were frayed at the ankles. No shoes. The cold marble floor bit into his feet, but Evan Holloway didn't move. He had learned not to complain. Malcolm leaned back in his chair, grinning for the cameras. The charity gala was being live-streamed to 40,000 viewers. Comments flooded the screen mounted behind him. "Is this a joke? Where are his parents? This is cruel." Evan reached into his pocket. His fingers closed around a wooden chess pawn, chipped, cracked, worn smooth by years of handling. It had been his grandfather's. "Pawns look small," Grandpa used to whisper, "but they're the only ones that reach the other side." Evan looked at the chessboard on the stage. White pieces arranged in a complex endgame position. A puzzle Malcolm had set up for the cameras, never expecting anyone to solve it. Certainly not a child. "Where are this kid's parents?" Malcolm asked, turning to the crowd. Laughter rippled through the room again. Evan raised his hand. "I just want to play," he said quietly. The laughter grew louder. Malcolm Greer was 43 years old. Tech mogul. Self-made billionaire. Philanthropist, according to every magazine cover. Tonight's gala was raising money for chess education in underserved communities. The irony would have been funny if Evan understood irony. He only understood chess. Malcolm gestured to his assistant, who brought forward a tablet. The contract appeared on the massive screen behind them, projected in crisp white text. "I, Malcolm Greer, agree to donate $100 million to any registered charity of the challenger's choice if said challenger solves the displayed position and defeats me in a regulation chess match." Gasps. Applause. Phone cameras lifted across the room. Then Malcolm added, his voice casual but sharp, "But when you lose, kid, you apologize to everyone here for wasting their time." The applause died. A woman near the front whispered, "That's not fair." Malcolm heard her. He smiled wider. "Life isn't fair. That's the lesson." Evan's fingers tightened around the wooden pawn in his pocket. He thought about his mom. Asleep right now in a women's shelter 3 miles away, exhausted from her double shift at the hospital laundry. He thought about the medical bill folded in her purse, the one she thought he didn't know about. He thought about Grandpa, who taught him chess on a cardboard board in the park, who said chess was about thinking 3 moves ahead. Evan looked up at Malcolm Greer. "I agree," he said. The room erupted. "Someone stop this, he's a child, this is going viral." Malcolm raised a hand. Silence fell. "The boy agreed," he said smoothly. "We have witnesses. We have cameras." He turned to Evan. "You can still back out, kid. No shame in knowing your limits." Evan shook his head. Malcolm didn't bother reading the rest of the contract. Neither did Evan. He couldn't read that fast anyway, the words were too big, the sentences too long. But he understood the board. A security guard whispered something to Malcolm's assistant. The assistant shook her head, glancing nervously at Evan. Malcolm sat down at the board. He cracked his knuckles theatrically. "Clock starts when you touch a piece," he said. "Standard rules. 10-minute blitz. You're white. I'll even let you keep the advantage." He gestured at the position. White was already winning, theoretically. Evan stepped forward. His bare feet made no sound on the marble. He placed the wooden pawn on the edge of the table. It rolled slightly, the crack in its base making it wobble. Malcolm glanced at it. Smirked. Said nothing. Evan reached for the board. The livestream chat exploded. "Why is he so calm? This kid's about to get destroyed. Somebody call CPS." Evan's hand hovered over a white pawn. Malcolm leaned back, already bored. Then Evan moved. Not the piece anyone expected. A woman in the third row, a former national chess champion, went still. Malcolm's smirk flickered. Just for a second. Evan Holloway woke to the sound of his mother crying. Not loud. Never loud. She cried the way people do when they don't want to be heard, muffled, swallowed, buried beneath a pillow in the next room. Evan lay still on the narrow cot. The shelter smelled like bleach and old coffee. Morning light crept through the high window, gray and tired. He counted the cracks in the ceiling. 17. Same as yesterday. His mom stopped crying. He heard water running. The squeak of the bathroom door. By the time she emerged, her face was calm. Practiced. Morning, baby, she said softly. Evan sat up. Morning, Mom. She handed him a granola bar, the kind from the food bank, generic wrapper, no flavor listed. He ate it without complaint. I have a double today, she said, pulling on her second-hand scrubs. Mrs. Chen said you can stay at the library until I'm done. That okay? Evan nodded. The library was 3 blocks away. It had heat, books, quiet, and chess. The Harold Washington Library smelled like old paper and possibility. Evan walked through the front doors every day after school, sometimes before school if Mom's shift started early. The librarians knew him. They didn't ask questions. They just nodded when he slipped into the back corner near the reference section. That's where the board was. An old wooden chessboard, pieces mismatched. Some plastic, some carved wood. The black king had a chip in its crown. The white queen was from a different set entirely, too tall, too elegant for the rest. Evan didn't care. He set up the pieces the way Grandpa taught him. Pawns first. Then rooks, knights, bishops. King and queen last, because they mattered most. Always show respect, Grandpa used to say. Even to wood. Evan played both sides. He'd learned to think like white, then stand up, walk around the table, sit down, and think like black. It forced him to see every angle. Every threat. Every possibility. Chess isn't about the pieces you have, Grandpa had said. It's about the position they are in. Evan remembered that now, staring at the board. He was 7 years old. No father. No home. No shoes that fit. But he had position. He saw patterns other kids didn't. Numbers made sense to him. Not just math, structure. The way things connected. How one move changed 5 others. In 2nd grade, his teacher caught him solving a Rubik's Cube in 11 seconds. She thought he'd memorized algorithms. He hadn't. He just saw it. Grandpa died 2 years ago. Heart attack. No warning. Just gone. He'd been teaching Evan chess since Evan was 4, before Mom lost the apartment, before the shelter, before everything fell apart. They played in Washington Park on a stone table, rain or shine. Grandpa brought the wooden set in a frayed canvas bag. The pieces clinked together like old friends. You're gonna be better than me, Grandpa said once, after Evan beat him for the first time. Evan shook his head. You let me win. I didn't. You moved your queen too early. Grandpa smiled. Slow. Proud. See? You're already better. That night, Grandpa gave him the wooden pawn, the one that was cracked, the one that didn't match the set. This one's special, he said. It survived. Got knocked off the board 100 times. Still came back. Evan turned it over in his small hands. Why? Because pawns don't quit. They just keep moving forward. 2 weeks later, Grandpa was gone. Evan kept the pawn. In the library, Evan played through famous games. He didn't have a computer. He didn't need one. He read chess notation from old books, games played by Fischer, Kasparov, Carlsen. He recreated them on the board, move by move, until he understood not just what they did, but why. A librarian, Ms. Delgado, noticed him once. You play alone a lot, she said gently. Evan nodded. You ever think about joining a club? There's a youth league downtown. Costs money, Evan said quietly. Ms. Delgado paused. Then she sat down across from him. You're really good, aren't you? Evan didn't answer. He moved a knight. Ms. Delgado studied the board. That's a master-level move, she whispered. Evan looked up at her, confused. How old are you? 7. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone. I'm going to make a call, she said. That's how Evan ended up at the Crestmorn Plaza. Ms. Delgado knew someone. That someone knew someone else. A youth chess program. A charity gala. A chance for disadvantaged kids to meet donors. Evan's mom was hesitant. I don't want you used for publicity, she said. But the invitation promised dinner. Transportation. Maybe connections. Maybe hope. So Evan went. He wore the only jacket he had, donated, too big, sleeves hanging past his hands. He didn't have dress shoes. So he went barefoot. Now, standing on the stage, Evan felt the weight of the wooden pawn in his pocket. He thought about Grandpa. He thought about Mom. He thought about the board. And he moved. Malcolm Greer played his first move in 3 seconds. Confident. Dismissive. He pushed a pawn forward, textbook opening, nothing creative. The kind of move a man makes when he's thinking about dinner, not the game. Evan studied the board. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Clock's running, kid, Malcolm said, leaning back. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Someone coughed. Evan moved. A quiet pawn push. Symmetrical response. Malcolm moved again immediately. Another standard developing move. Evan paused longer this time. 20 seconds. A man in the front row whispered to his wife, he's stalling. Doesn't know what to do. Malcolm heard it. Smiled. Evan moved his knight. Not where it was supposed to go. A woman 3 rows back sat up straighter. Her name was Dr. Renata Voss, former U.S. women's chess champion, now a coach and analyst. She'd been dragged to this gala by a donor friend, bored out of her mind. Until now. That knight move, she whispered. Her friend leaned over. What? That's not beginner play. Malcolm didn't notice. He developed his bishop, attacking Evan's knight. Evan moved the knight again. Deeper into enemy territory. Malcolm frowned. Moved faster. Evan slowed down. 30 seconds per move now. 40. The crowd grew restless. Is he even trying? Poor kid's overwhelmed. This is painful to watch. But Dr. Voss leaned forward, eyes locked on the board. He's not scared, she murmured. He's calculating. Move 12. Evan pushed a pawn into a position that looked suicidal. Malcolm took it immediately, grinning. Thanks for the freebie. The audience chuckled nervously. Evan didn't react. He moved his bishop. Malcolm captured another pawn 2 moves later. Kid's falling apart, someone muttered. But Dr. Voss grabbed her friend's arm. No, she breathed. He's baiting him. What? Those pawns, he's giving them up to open lines. Look at the queen's diagonal. Look at the knight's next square. Her friend squinted at the screen displaying the board position. I don't see, you will. Malcolm glanced at the clock. 6 minutes left. The kid had used 4 minutes already, while Malcolm had only burned 90 seconds. Time pressure's gonna get him, Malcolm said into the mic, playing to the camera. Classic mistake, overthinking. The livestream chat was divided. This is hard to watch. Someone stop this. Wait, what's the kid doing? That last move was weird. Evan sacrificed his knight. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Malcolm took it, laughing. You sure you've played before? Evan finally spoke. His voice was quiet but clear. Yes, sir. Malcolm paused. Something in the boy's tone. Too calm. He looked back at the board. His smile wavered. Move 18. Evan sacrificed his second knight. This time, people weren't laughing. Dr. Voss stood up. Oh my God, she whispered. Her friend stared at her. What? What is it? He's not losing. He's hunting. Malcolm's hand hovered over the knight. For the first time, he hesitated. 3 seconds. 5. He took the knight. Had to. The position demanded it. Evan moved his rook. Quiet. Unassuming. Malcolm stared at the board. The smile was gone now. While Malcolm thought, Evan's hand slipped into his pocket. He felt the wooden pawn. traced the crack with his thumb. Pawns don't quit. A camera caught the gesture, zoomed in on the chipped piece as it rolled slightly on the table's edge. The livestream chat noticed, "What's that in his hand? Is that a lucky charm or something?" "This kid's breaking my heart." Evan set the pawn down gently. It wobbled. The crack in its base made it lean. Malcolm glanced at it. His jaw tightened. "Sentimental," he said coldly. "That's why you'll lose." Evan looked up at him. "My grandpa gave it to me." "Where's your grandpa now?" "Dead." Silence. Malcolm's face hardened. "Then he can't help you." Evan nodded slowly. "I know." He moved his queen. Malcolm's eyes widened. He leaned forward, studying the board. Dr. Voss was on her feet now, phone out, recording. "What's happening?" someone asked her. "Forced mate," she breathed. "In 7 moves. Maybe 6. "What does that mean?" "It means the kid's about to win." The room went dead silent. Malcolm saw it now. Every sacrifice. Every wasted move. They'd all been building to this. The pawns opened lines. The knights cleared space. The rook controlled the back rank. And now the queen, Malcolm's king, had nowhere to go. He calculated frantically. 4 minutes left on the clock. He tried a defensive move. Evan responded in 5 seconds. Malcolm tried another. Evan crushed it in 3. Sweat beaded on Malcolm's forehead. The cameras caught it. 2 minutes left. Malcolm had 1 move left that delayed the inevitable. He played it. Evan didn't even pause. He moved his rook to the 8th rank. Checkmate. The chess clock's flag fell. The sound echoed across the ballroom like a gunshot. No one moved. No one breathed. Malcolm stared at the board. Dr. Voss started clapping. Slowly, others joined. Evan stood very still, hands at his sides. He looked at Malcolm. Waiting. Malcolm Greer straightened in his chair. The applause continued, but something in his posture had changed. He wasn't smiling anymore. He studied the board for another long moment, then looked up at the crowd. At the cameras. At the 40,000 people watching live. He started, then stopped. Evan waited. Malcolm's expression shifted. The warmth drained from his face like water circling a drain. "That's not right," he said. The applause faltered. "Excuse me?" Dr. Voss called from the audience. Malcolm gestured at the board. "The position. The deal was he had to solve the position and beat me." He tapped the tablet in front of him. "The endgame puzzle I set up, he moved before solving it." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Evan's stomach dropped. "I did solve it," he said quietly. "Did you?" Malcolm leaned back, crossing his arms. "Because from where I'm sitting, you just played a game. A nice game, I'll admit. But the contract was very specific." He gestured to the screen behind them. The contract language reappeared, highlighted now. "If said challenger solves the displayed position and defeats me." The displayed position was an endgame study, Malcolm continued, his voice smooth, controlled. "A theoretical position. You were supposed to demonstrate the solution before we played." He shrugged. "You didn't." The room erupted. "That's not what you said. You can't just, here's a child." Malcolm raised his hand. The microphone amplified his voice over the chaos. "I said what I said. The terms were clear. This is a charity event, ladies and gentlemen, not a con." Dr. Voss pushed toward the stage. "That position was unsolvable in the time limit you gave him. You set him up to fail." Malcolm's eyes were cold. Then perhaps he shouldn't have accepted. He stood. Evan felt his throat tighten. His hands were shaking now. "But I won," he whispered. Malcolm looked down at him. Really looked at him for the first time. "Kid," he said, not unkindly, "this is how the world works. There are rules. Contracts. Fine print." He gestured at the room. "These people? They understand that. You will too, eventually." He nodded to security. 2 guards stepped forward. "Wait," Evan said, louder now. "You promised. Everyone heard you." "I promised under specific conditions." Malcolm picked up his phone, already moving on. Conditions you didn't meet. I'm sorry you misunderstood, but that's not my problem. Someone shouted, "You're stealing from a child." Malcolm turned to the crowd, irritation finally cracking through his composure. I'm teaching him a lesson. The same one my father taught me. His voice hardened. The world doesn't owe you anything. Not because you're poor. Not because you're young. Not because you think you're special. He looked back at Evan. Know your place. The wooden pawn rolled off the table. It hit the marble floor with a small, hollow sound. Cracked further. Nobody moved to pick it up. Malcolm walked toward the exit. His assistant followed, already fielding phone calls. Evan stood frozen. The applause was gone now. Just murmuring. Uncomfortable shuffling. Cameras still recording. A security guard touched Evan's shoulder. Come on, son. Time to go. Evan's vision blurred. He'd been so sure. He'd played perfectly. Grandpa would have been proud. But Grandpa was wrong. Pawns don't reach the other side. They just get swept off the board. Then a voice cut through the noise. Don't touch him. The ballroom went silent. An older man stepped forward from the side of the stage. Tall, dignified, moving with the careful precision of someone who'd earned the right to command a room. Harold Whitman. 72 years old. Silver hair. Dark suit. No tie. The security guard's hand dropped. Malcolm stopped walking. Harold, he said carefully. This doesn't concern you. It does, actually. Harold's voice was quiet, but it carried. He walked to where Evan stood, looked down at the broken pawn on the floor, and picked it up. He turned it over in his hands. I know this piece, Harold said softly. Evan looked up at him, confused. Harold met his eyes. You still carry it. You know my grandpa? I knew him very well. Harold's expression shifted, something between sadness and pride. Leonard Whitman was my father. The room erupted again. Malcolm's face went pale. Harold turned to face the crowd, still holding the pawn. My father spent the last 15 years of his life teaching chess in Washington Park. For free. To anyone who'd sit down with him. His voice was steady, measured. He taught strategy, discipline, integrity. He looked at Malcolm. He taught that a promise made in public is a debt you can't escape. Malcolm opened his mouth. Closed it. Harold continued. This company, Greer Tech, exists because 30 years ago, I gave Malcolm Greer his first round of funding. $2 million when nobody else would touch him. He paused. We shook hands. No contract. Just a handshake and a promise that he'd build something that mattered. He held up the broken pawn. My father gave his grandson this piece because he wanted him to remember that the smallest player on the board can still change the game. Harold's voice hardened. Malcolm just proved he's forgotten that. Someone in the crowd shouted, What are you going to do about it? Harold pulled out his phone. Tapped the screen. His voice was calm. I'm calling an emergency board vote. Malcolm's face went from pale to gray. You can't, I'm still the largest single shareholder. I can. Harold looked at the cameras. And every person watching this live stream just saw you break a public contract with a 7-year-old boy for no reason other than cruelty. He turned to his assistant, who'd appeared at his side. Draft a motion. Vote of no confidence. CEO removal. Effective immediately. Malcolm's assistant dropped her phone. The livestream chat was moving so fast the words blurred. Yes, do it, make him pay, let the boy win. Harold knelt down next to Evan. He pressed the pawn into the boy's hand. Your grandfather was right, he said quietly. Pawns do reach the other side. But they don't do it alone. Evan's fingers closed around the wood. Is he really going to pay? Evan whispered. Harold stood. Yes. Because I'll make sure of it. He looked at Malcolm. One way or another. Malcolm's jaw worked. His hands were fists at his sides. But he said nothing. He couldn't. Not with 40,000 people watching. Not with his board turning against him. Not with the world waiting for his next move. The cameras kept rolling. By morning, the video had 12 million views. The hashtag #LetTheBoyWin was trending in 47 countries. News outlets picked it up. Legal analysts weighed in. Child advocacy groups issued statements. Someone found Evan's mom at the shelter. Camera crews waited outside. Malcolm Greer's office released a statement at 6 a.m. Upon further review, we acknowledge a misunderstanding regarding the terms of last night's challenge. Greer Tech will honor the commitment in full. $100 million will be transferred to the designated charity within 72 hours. It didn't mention the board vote. It didn't mention Harold Whitman. It didn't mention that by 8 a.m., 3 major sponsors had pulled their contracts. By noon, the board vote was official. Malcolm Greer was no longer CEO. He released a second statement, shorter, stripped of corporate Polish. I made a mistake. I let arrogance cloud my judgment. I hurt a child in public and thought I could justify it with fine print. I was wrong. I've resigned from Greer Tech's board. The funds have been transferred. I'm sorry. No press conference. No follow-up. Just silence. The kind that follows someone when they've lost something they can't buy back. Evan didn't watch the news. His mom kept the TV off, the phone on silent. They stayed at a friend's apartment, someone from the hospital who offered them a couch, some privacy, a few days to breathe. On the third day, Harold Whitman visited. He knocked softly. Evan's mom opened the door, suspicious and exhausted. Mrs. Holloway, Harold said. I'm Harold Whitman. Leonard was my father. She stared at him. Then her eyes filled with tears. He talked about you, she said quietly. He said you were kind. That you made something of yourself. He made something of me, Harold corrected gently. He held up a folder. I'd like to talk about your son's future. If you'll let me. They sat at a small kitchen table. Evan stayed quiet, the wooden pawn in his pocket. Harold explained. A trust fund. Education covered. Housing assistance. No strings. Your father didn't just teach my son chess, Evan's mom said, voice breaking. He gave him hope. Harold nodded. Then let me return the favor. He slid a business card across the table. When Evan's ready, if he wants it, there's a spot in our youth development program. Chess, math, whatever interests him. He paused. No pressure. No publicity. Just opportunity. Evan's mom took the card. Her hands were shaking. Why? She whispered. Harold smiled. Sad, but real. Because my father believed in second chances. And I failed to give Malcolm Greer one when it mattered. He looked at Evan. I won't make that mistake twice. A week later, Evan sat on the front steps of the Harold Washington Library. He wore new shoes. They fit. The broken pawn sat on the step beside him, carefully glued back together. The crack was still visible, but it stood upright now. Solid. A chessboard rested on his lap, a real one, wooden weighted pieces, a gift from Ms. Delgado. He set up the pieces slowly. Pawns first. Then rooks, knights, bishops. King and queen last. Harold walked up the steps, carrying 2 cups of hot chocolate. Mind if I sit? He asked. Evan shook his head. Harold Saturday handed him a cup. They watched people pass by, students, workers, parents with kids. You did good, Harold said finally. Evan shook his head. I just played chess. No, Harold said. You did something harder. You showed up. You tried. And when someone tried to take that away from you, you stood there and waited for justice. He paused. That takes more courage than any move on a board. Evan picked up the repaired pawn. Turned it over. Grandpa said pawns reach the other side. They do, Harold agreed. But not by staying pawns. He gestured at the board. When they get there, they transform. They become something more. Evan looked at him. What do I become? Harold smiled. Whatever you choose. He stood, brushed off his coat. I'll see you around, Evan. Take your time. The world can wait. He walked down the steps. Evan watched him go. Then he looked back at the board. He moved a pawn forward. 1 square. Just the beginning. Around him, the city moved. People rushed past, barely noticing the boy with the chessboard. But somewhere, in the quiet space between moves, Evan felt it. The shift. The possibility. The slow, patient certainty that he wasn't just playing anymore. He was building something. One move at a time. The way Grandpa taught him. Power can ignore adults. It can silence the poor. It can bend rules and rewrite contracts. But when it targets a child in front of the world, something shifts. Not always. Not easily. But sometimes, when the cameras are rolling, when the outrage is loud enough, when one person with power decides to stand up instead of look away, justice finds a crack to slip through. Evan Holloway didn't win because he was the best chess player. He won because he showed up. Because he played with integrity when someone else played with cruelty. Because he had a grandfather who taught him that pawns don't quit. And because one man remembered that promises matter, even the ones you didn't think anyone was counting. If stories like this matter to you, there are more. Stories about people who were underestimated, overlooked, or told they didn't belong. People who moved forward anyway. Subscribe, because the next one might feel even closer to home.